Thank you. Okay, welcome to this meeting of the Windsor Forum on Tuesday, the 23rd of July, 2025. My name is Councillor Mark Wilson, and I'll be chairing this meeting. The meeting is being held in person via Zoom and streamed live to the public on YouTube. May I remind all attendees that participation in the meeting indicates consent to the audio and video being streamed live, and acknowledgement that after the meeting it will continue to be available in the public domain. Firstly, it would be useful if all forum members and officers could introduce themselves so that the public are aware of who is in this meeting and the role they're undertaking. So to say, Mark Wilson, and I'm chairing the meeting.
Hi, I'm Councillor Alison Carpenter, Councillor from Clewer and Dedworth East, member of the forum.
There Wisdom Costa from Clewer and Dedworth West and a member of the forum.
Lawrence Ellis, Democratic Services, and the clerk to the Windsor Forum.
Okay, next, hello, Doug Tremellon, I'm the Transport Policy Manager for the Borough.
Hello, Paul Oates, Windsor Eaton Town Manager.
I'm sorry, we can't hear you.
Paul Oates, Windsor and Eaton Town Manager. Everybody hear that?
Now again.
Paul Oates, Windsor and Eaton Town Manager.
Thank you. I request that meeting participants do not speak unless I specifically invite you to do so. Once I have invited you to speak, before you do so, please state your name and the capacity in which you are speaking if appropriate. I'll also ask officers to speak at appropriate times. If any individual attempts to disrupt the meeting, I'm able to use my powers in the Constitution to adjourn the meeting and have the individual removed. I would also like to remind councillors that to improve our time and effectiveness as a forum, I would ask you to please limit the repetition of points or questions which have already been raised by others. Where possible, please put forward all new points or questions which you would like to raise during your request to speak. So we'll now start on the agenda items. Do we have any apologies for absence?
No apologies for C Chair. The only notice is that the Vice Chair, Councillor Amy Teasy, has informed that she'll be arriving to the meeting late. She seemed to arrive around 7:30.
Okay, thank you. Are there any declarations of interest from the forum members? Thank you. We'd just like to refer to the minutes of the last meeting. Are we happy to approve those as a true and accurate record? Thank you. I'll sign those later. So just before we move on to the matters arising, I just want to reference an event that was published on Facebook recently, which was the sad loss of Windsor's favourite cat, Dexter. If I can refer to a post that Amy Teasy made at the time, I think this was some lovely words, and I'm a bit more of a numbers guy, so I'll refer to Amy for her words on this one. She said, "We were saddened to read this evening that Windsor's favourite cat, Dexter, has passed away. Dexter's mum, Kirsty, shared a moving post on this page explaining that he died after an accident. Dexter was a gentlemanly cat, tolerant to petting kids and drunken revellers who wanted a cuddle after a night out. Tourists stopped and worried whether he might be lost. Locals knew he was just mooching and might have a quick chat before letting him on his way. Every chair was Dexter's to be slept on. Whether shop, office, pub or bank, he claimed the comfiest spot for a nap in between adventures. And what adventures he had, roaming miles around Windsor, chasing rats and checking up on his town. He lived a long and full life, and it would always be too soon to lose him. So we send our love to Dexter's family and raise a glass to him." Finally, we've seen discussions about a statue or plaque to Dexter in the town, and we would certainly support any efforts to get this off the ground. And Amy, as Cabinet Member for Windsor, is pleased to facilitate the council in any way possible. I'm pleased to say that since then, Amy has been in contact with Kirsty, and they're both in discussions with RBWM officers regarding a suitable memorial in the town, the form of which is still being considered. We've had a BBC report, and now over £16,000 has been raised with the GoFundMe fundraiser. And just for reference, that's been described by Kirsty as follows. She's raising funds to commission a life-size outdoor statue of Dexter, a proper tribute to a cat who left a surprisingly big paw print on this town. She started exploring pricing. Let's just say statues aren't cheap. She'd also like to have a beautiful urn created for his ashes, and any funds raised beyond the cost of the statue, urn and memorial space will be donated to a charity to be decided at a later date. So it's a really lovely thing in sad circumstances, and I look forward to what can be created in the town in Dexter's memory.
Chair
Certainly.
Yeah, I want to add just one more accolade to Dexter, and it's this. And I've seen the photographs of him being on patrol with the police and the emergency services in their car. So he was an adventurous cat as well.
Indeed, the photos that have come forth really do show his adventures. I think he's visited pretty much every residence in the town, from the theatre to many shops. So turning to the matters arising, we had two. The first was to provide feedback on the extent of success of the free swimming lessons. And in the pack, in the agenda pack, there are a couple of documents from Leisure Focus which describe the sort of the extent of the activities last summer. And I guess a couple of highlights that I picked out, that from Leisure Focus's perspective specifically, they had around 450 participants over the summer holidays last year. And then there was also some activity at the St Edmund Campion Primary School in Maidenhead, where around 1,700 individuals participated in either swimming lessons or swimming sessions. So I think there was some very good engagement with that. There's also a river safety campaign report attached to the pack, which refers to I think 250,000 social media impressions, and this was the overall river safety campaign. And the fire and rescue service said that there were no major incidents to report. They had some boats in distress and some persons believed to be in the water, but they managed to get themselves out without further assistance. So that was positive feedback from last year's summer campaign. The second point was that Steph James was going to update the forum on the grants that RBWM have applied for in respect of the Christmas lights. And I've got an update for that, where Steph says the Economic Growth team have applied for grants from the Louis Bayliss Trust, and they're in the process of writing bids to other local organisations. The sponsorship pack is being developed, and opportunities to support the Christmas programme being investigated. The grants being applied for are to put the to host the switch on events, which cost in the region of £15,000. Obviously, at the last meeting, this forum agreed that the incremental precept would go towards the testing, installation, and takedown. Steph also adds, we've not sought quotes for the replacement lights at this stage, as this would likely run into the hundreds of thousands in total, but that is something we can pick up in the future. So those are the matters arising. We'd now like to move on to the substantive items on the agenda, the first of which is
Sorry, Chair, have the minutes been approved?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
We'd like to, yes, move on to item 5, the first substantive item, which is a presentation from Thames Hospice. So delighted to welcome Jane and Alana. Please do introduce yourselves, and look forward to your presentation.
Hello, can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah.
Wonderful, good. So thank you, Chair, thank you, Council, thank you everyone for inviting us along today. So we are here to talk a little bit about Thames Hospice, and then a little bit about the elephant in the room, which we'll come to in a moment.
If you gave you permission, let me just. Right.
Lovely. So the first question I wanted to ask, just by a show of hands, has anybody been to a hospice before? Any hospice at all? Great. A lot of you in the room. And have you been to Thames Hospice? Oh, good. So a lot of you have. That's brilliant. Excellent. Okay. So I think that's one of the first things we always talk about when people come to see us is what the word hospice means, because it means different things to different people. But we often have myths around the word hospice and hospice care that we try to dispel. So the first thing I wanted to just talk about a little bit is about common myths about hospice care. So a lot of people think it is just where people go to die, and that's all we do at Thames Hospice and hospices in general. That it's a pretty dark and horrible place that nobody likes to go into. That it's full of sadness, and that also that it's not for me or for my family or for my religion or my culture. So it's really important that we share that actually they're all myths. And what we do at the hospice is create memories for families. Yes, sad things do happen, but it's generally a happy place. It's full of light. It's, as many of you have seen, as you've been visited, it's a beautiful building, it's a beautiful place, and it's full of beautiful people. And what we can do is, in people's dark moments, we can provide light for them and provide a beautiful place for those last weeks and days. And the really important thing to note is that it is for everybody. It's for everyone in our community who needs our support. A lot of people don't realise that Thames Hospice is free at the point of service of people, so we don't charge. It's not NHS. We'll come to that in a moment. But it is free for everybody in the community, and we want to be there for everyone in our community, and that's one of the things that we're working towards. Okay, I'm hoping this video works. So earlier this year, we combined forces with 140 other hospices around the country to create a national TV campaign based around giving gifts in your will to hospice care. It's the first time we've been on national television because we've never really, no hospice has the budget to do it themselves, but Hospice UK has allowed us to do that. So I'm hoping this video will work. No sound, okay, hang on. Very technical difficulty. No, it's fine. That one.
Creeping every day. I got thoughts that creeping every day. Things that go bump in the night. You say I'm beside you. I'm not going anywhere.
Sorry, sound wasn't great there, but you get the idea. Just what hospice care is like for people around the country. Just going to remember the bit. There we go. So there's a lot of information on this slide. I don't be upset you could read all of it, but I think the most important thing to see in that circle is that our patients and families are in the centre of everything that we do. So we have 4 strategic objectives at Thames Hospice. The first one is care with agility. So that's all about putting patients and families at the centre of every decision that we make. And then a big piece of work we're doing at the moment is about extending reach. So as I said earlier, we are here for everybody, but not everybody knows that. And we can't expect everyone to come to us. So we are working really hard to make sure we're going out into our communities, different groups, faiths, religions, backgrounds, to make sure that everybody realises that hospice care is available in whatever form they want, whichever way that it works for them and their family. So we're working really hard on our extending reach. Supportive culture is our other important objective. We can't provide excellent care without excellent staff, so we work really hard to look after our staff, and we have over 1,000 volunteers that support for Thames Hospice that we wouldn't be able to run without. And then obviously financial sustainability is really important because we will not be here otherwise. I'm not going to go too much into the detail about the services that we offer, but there are 3 main services. Our inpatient services, which is at the hospice itself for end-of-life care, a hospice at home programme, which actually looks after 80% of the patients we look after. And we have our outpatient services, which is our day therapy, our physiotherapy, our counselling team, and our complementary therapies. And between those 4 services, we look after well over 3,000 people every year in our community. And our motto is quality of life to the end of life. So it's about making sure that people can live well with their condition for as long as possible. So these are some of the lovely people we look after. And I just wanted to choose one of the stories. So Pat, you see up there, age 63, was with us back in 2019. I had the pleasure of getting to know her. She was a beautiful lady. And one of the things that really resonated with me when I spoke to her was that she said when she came into the hospice, she could just be herself. She didn't have to put on any airs and graces. She could be comfortable. She could be open and free. And it wasn't what she thought it would be. She was worried about coming in. But the second she stepped through the door and spoke to other people going through what she was going through and spoke to staff, she felt comfortable and in a good place. And that has always stayed with me because I think that's really important and something that we can offer to all of our patients and families. And these are just a few of the stories of the thousands of people that we're able to support every year. So we're here because we're in the fundraising team, and the hospice doesn't run without fundraising. So does anybody know or have any idea of how much it actually costs to run our services every year? How much, sorry? A couple of million. Anyone else? So actually this year it's costing over £20 million to run Thames Hospice. It's a lot of money. So that's £56,000 every day we need to make sure that we can keep our doors open and be looking after the thousands of patients and families that we need to every year. So the next question is, how much of that do we have to raise every year? So of a percentage, what percentage do you think comes from the NHS? 15? Okay, not too bad. Little better than that. So we get 30% of our funding for the NHS, which does mean that every day we have to raise £39,000, which sounds like a lot, but we have lots and lots of ways of doing it, and we have the most amazing community of people that help us raise that money every day. So what do we do to raise that money, and what are we doing to extend reach, and what are we doing to raise awareness? And it's time to talk about the elephant in the room.
Hello everyone, my name's Layla and I'm the Corporate Partnerships Manager at Thames Hospice, so thank you very much for inviting me here. And before I took that role, I also worked with our local community, so very, very grateful for the support that we have. And as Jane has just passed over, it's time to talk about the elephant in the room. So that huge amount of money and the extending reach piece that we spoke about, that's a pretty jumbo project, I think you'll all agree. And I'm so sorry because we have been talking elephant puns for a long time, so I've got a few up my sleeve. So for a jumbo project, we needed a jumbo beast, and we did pick an elephant. So to talk a little bit more about Trunks Across the Thames, I would like to show you a video of the launch that we had at our hospice in May, and hopefully that will give you a little bit of an insight into what the project is and how we're going to achieve those aims, and then we'll talk about it in a little bit more detail.
Trunks Across the Thames is a super exciting project that we're bringing to life in 2026.
We are sure that this 8-week public art trail through the streets of Slough and Windsor will be a real statement.
Trunks Across the Thames is a really exciting way for businesses to get involved and show their responsible business strategy.
It will raise vital funds for the £39,000 we need to raise every day to run this place.
These elephant sculptures will help us to do that via sponsorship from businesses.
So if you're a business, get involved. I don't want to do a hard sell, but just think about your kids and you're not involved, because that's what it's about.
It isn't just about fundraising. It is so much more than that. This is about increasing community awareness about what the hospice does and the huge amount of work that we're doing with our schools to bust some of the myths about hospice care.
For those who follow Hope's path from Windsor to Slough, the journey is a chance to see the world through their eyes. to remember that each person's story is valuable.
I hope that you can get behind it, and I'm incredibly proud of the care that we deliver each and every day here.
Let's put our hands together to thank Thames Hospice for what they do.
So how's it going to work? Well, there will be an art trail, a public art trail across Windsor and Slough. It will run for 9 weeks from July to September in 2026. And we're hoping that it will bring over 100,000 visitors to those towns. How is it going to be made up? Well, this is one of our smaller elephants, but we actually have 30 large sculptures, which were about 5 foot. So you can imagine we couldn't quite fit that in our car to bring it along today. But those 30 big sculptures will be placed at various locations across Windsor and Slough, encouraging people to come along and explore their local town. Those elephants arrive completely unpainted, they're completely blank. And what we're asking for is the local community of artists and creatives around us to decorate these elephants, for which they will receive a fee. Obviously, we recognise the importance of their work. And that's really special because it means that everybody can put their input into what do they love about this town, what do they want to share with the community, what do they want to share far and wide. Alongside the large elephants, there's also a parallel education programme. So these small elephants are available to be adopted by schools, community groups. They will fundraise for them, they will decorate them themselves. Those elephants will also go out on the trail, but those small elephants will then return back to those schools as a lasting legacy of what they've done and what they've achieved. So there's 50 of those elephants, and we're very pleased to say that 32 of them have already been adopted. It's a very popular project. But it's really important to us to start talking about hospice care from very young age. So the little girl that you saw up there on the video reading that story, that was actually my daughter, my eldest daughter, and she comes and supports me with a lot of our fundraising. I know Jane's children are heavily involved as well. It's really important to encourage the youth of today to learn about charity and looking after each other. And they ask some really wonderful questions as well that we as adults are perhaps a little bit nervous to ask, and that's really about the heart of the project, is to ask these questions, to bust these myths, and to get people talking about hospice care. So, as I said, this is Miles. Miles is our little elephant that comes out. Miles's undercoat was actually painted by our children and families team. So Bertie was a little boy that you saw up there, and Evie May. They are children that we have supported because they've lost someone close to them. So it could be a parent, a grandparent. So they did the coat underneath. And then our very talented finance lady, Alison, so spreadsheets by day, painting by night, added all this beautiful decoration. And Miles is there because Miles will walk miles with you. Miles will walk the trail with you. Miles is there to stand by your side, and we will be there through the tough miles for you as well. And then our large hero elephant is called Hope. She's called Hope because we brought the letters HOPE out of hospice. And Hope is a very special story. So there's a story of Hope, and we have a few copies here that we'll leave behind for you to take a look at. Hope started out as a grey elephant. She didn't know much about the towns, she didn't know much about hospice care, and she made a very special journey, a journey that we'll be inviting everybody to take part in next year. And as she walked through the towns, her skin took on the stories of the people that she met, and the great culture and the different identities of the people that live in these beautiful towns, and they decorated her skin. So she has the Thames running all the way down her back onto her tail, and then on one side she has Windsor, and there's some really iconic landmarks and stories and pieces that you will recognise. And then on the other side she has Slough, so lots of really vibrant pieces there. So you'll see some of them on the Slough side. We're not just looking to run this trail in Windsor and Slough, although the big elephants will be there. We're also inviting the wider community to come along, and we want to encourage people who live nearby to actually come and explore some of these towns. So I live in Walgrave, for example, and I have spent a lot of time in Windsor because my aunt used to live in Eton, but we're inviting people to come along. You'll see the little orange elephants there. They are our community partners, so they're the ones that have adopted these small elephants, and there will be mini herds in some of the surrounding towns as well, as a small advertisement really to say, look, if you want to see a bigger elephant, if you want to see more, come on over, come to Windsor, come to Slough and explore the main bulk of the trail. So very exciting that we've really got, Bracknell, Maidenhead, all the way into Reading and Early and Wokingham as well. So I suppose the question is, how can you help? Well, there's a huge variety of ways. You don't have to just adopt an elephant or sponsor an elephant or buy an elephant or auction if any of you got space, one of the 5-foot ones in your garden. There's lots of different ways. We're asking businesses to get involved, of course, as I said, by sponsoring, but also by perhaps putting a decal in their shop window to advertise that the trail is happening. As I said before, we've got small elephants. There's 32 that have been adopted, but there's still 18 up for grabs. So if you know of a community group, we've got nurseries, we've got care homes, we have got an ice hockey team. Everyone is welcome to sign up and adopt one of these elephants. So if you've got anyone in mind, please do get in touch with us at the hospice and we will be able to talk in a little bit more detail about how the Small Elephant Project works. The artists, we've currently got our open artist call for people to send submissions in. Everybody's welcome. It might be somebody's first time that they thought about decorating an elephant. And what a fantastic first commission to have, to decorate an elephant that's going to be out in your own community for 3 months. Of course, we need somewhere to put these big elephants as well. So if you have any ideas or any connections, the big elephants will be outside on concrete pins. But small elephants, as you will have just seen, I can lift them up. And most people can lift them up. So we're looking for indoor venues, but shop windows, places that are open to the public so the children that have decorated these elephants can come and easily access and see them. But they need to be somewhere a little bit more protected. We need to look after the little ones. We need space for all of these elephants as well. The hospice doesn't quite have the space for 30 big elephants and 50 small ones when they arrive. So we're looking for warehousing and perhaps some space for our artists to go and decorate the elephants, because it will take about 2 months for them to add these finishing touches in. Any adverts or advertising to let people know about the trail. And we're inviting our community not just to complete the trail, but be trail champions. I went and visited a trail in Lyme Regis, and it was really important there for everyone to know about the elephants. We've got so many people coming and visiting these amazing towns that we have here. And they're going to say, what's that story about the elephant up there? So what we want is for people to say, I know about the elephant, it's for Thames Hospice, and this is what they're doing, and starting opening up the conversation within our community and people that are visiting our community about the hospice, death and dying, and why it's so very, very important to support the hospice and to enable us to keep providing that care, as Jane said, free at the point of access. Of course, there's some huge benefits. We would love to say that we're the first people to think of putting these massive sculptures around, but we're not. But what's really lovely is that it means that we've heard from so many other towns and so many other charities that have embarked on a massive project like this. And what we've learned is that it has so many benefits. Not only is it raising the profile of the hospice, not only is it inviting people to go out and learn about their community, but it has a really big impact as well on the sense of community. So there's some examples here from the Sheep by the Sea trail. 81% said that the trail created a sense of community. It added a huge amount of money to the local economy. It also encouraged people to get out and about with their family. I don't know if any of you have tried to do anything with your family recently, but if you want to go to a trampoline park, that's going to cost you £70 for an hour. So it's much nicer if you can say, come on kids, let's pack everything up, let's get a picnic and let's go and see what we can find. And it's something that can be accessed by everyone, great and small. And of course, the trail will finish with an auction. And very exciting, the big elephants will be up for auction at the very end. So as you're visiting the trail, as you're seeing all the elephants out there, if you've got a favourite, if you've got your eye on one, and you fancy doing a bit of a bargain hunt or coming along to the auction, let us know, because they will be available to purchase. Or perhaps you want to get together, or you know of someone that really could do with an elephant in their business, for example. So that was a very quick overview of what we're doing with Transport Across the Thames. It's a very, very exciting project, and we're really grateful that we're able to do something like this in this community, and we have the support of so many important people around us. So from everyone here at Thames Hospice, I'm just going to put a thank you very much, and I guess we can open up the floor to any questions at all.
I also want to say a big thank you to RBWM and Slough Council, because they're both on board and supporting us, so we're very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for that presentation. Very interesting, and it's clear that the work of the hospice is both very moving and very valuable. So thank you. Very happy to open it up now for the forum first. Any comments from yes, Councillor Costa.
I want to say public thank you to you and all your staff for supporting myself and my family and my mother who's in your care. And I can't speak highly enough of the team at the hospice, especially the nursing team, who the levels of empathy and the ability to move a person from suffering into enjoying life. Wow, super skilled. Just a question though. You want to expand your reach, but with that, if you want continuity of care, you're going to need a lot more people, and the amount of money you need to raise then increases, doesn't it? So are you able to just really briefly talk about what the plans are?
So we had to be very careful about not just doing more, because that costs more, and there's only a finite amount of money from both the community and NHS that we can ask for. So it's about being smart about the way that we support people. So one of the things that we've done over the last couple of years is providing more support in people's homes. So a couple of years ago, we launched what we call a virtual ward. So rather than having people coming into the hospice, which is needed for some people, but is very expensive, it's around £1,000 for every 24 hours of care, we actually bring the nursing, the doctors out to people's homes. So actually a consultant will go out and visit somebody at home for a period of a couple of weeks, which may be what they need and gets to keep them at home, which means we can provide that high level of care, but it's a little bit cheaper and doesn't cost as much. So it's about thinking about how to be a bit smarter about the way we do things. Yes, we want to extend our reach and get to the right people, but we have to be careful about how much we can offer. So yes, it's a balance that we are continually working on.
Thank you very much. Excellent presentation. So yeah, I like the idea of the elephants and things. So will they be placed at, you say Windsor, but Windsor isn't just a town centre, and I represent outside of Windsor, Dedworth. Will you be placing elephants outside of the town centre as well? So we have some great
Paul for that one. We're talking to Paul about where we place them in the town centre. So at the moment, everything's up for grabs.
Yeah, Paul should know. It's not just where.
No, I mean we've had a bit of experience with similar projects because we did the Lions of Windsor. We've done the welfare horses a couple of years ago. So there are spots that lend themselves to this type of project. I suppose the key thing will be, because I know you talked about a trail going from Windsor to Slough, and it's yeah, if there is a dedicated route, then that may restrict how we spread beyond the town centre boundary. But I noticed in one of your presentations you had clusters. I think you said clusters.
Yes.
So maybe that's the opportunity that allows it to spread beyond the town centre boundary line and go into places like Clewer, Dedworth. But ultimately, yeah, your main trial, as I understand it, is from Windsor to Slough Town Centre.
We want people to be able to walk around and see them. We are actually talking to the Great Park, to the Crown Estate, about putting a few of the elephants in the park at the moment as well. So having clusters of them in different places, but still having the majority in Windsor and Slough. So yeah, absolutely up for that conversation.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you. Happy to open it up to the rest of the room. Councillor Price.
Thank you. Councillor Helen Price. I'd just like to say how much I enjoy using the shops that you have. We've got two in Windsor, we've got one in Dedworth, and we've got one in the town centre. And there's always something in there that could be really useful, and I can always find it. So I went in the other day and said, have you got a walking stick? Yes, we've got walking sticks. So I had a choice of about 6 walking sticks. And the other thing I found really helpful was then clearing out my parents-in-law house, which is 60 years of clear out. And again, being able to think, well, that's going to find another home and it'll be loved. So that meant a lot. So that's another way of us helping you, at the same time helping ourselves.
Absolutely, thank you. We haven't touched on retail at all because we've not had time, but we could talk all day about all the various areas. But the shops are a really, really important part of what we do in terms of raising funds, being able to take in stock and raising awareness. And the elephants will be in some of the shops as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the room? So yes, if you could come forward and just come to the seat with the microphone. that would be great. Thank you.
I'd just like to speak to the ladies of the hospice. I come from Queen Anne's Gate, and about 18 months ago, we had a really big fundraise for the children. Everybody was making toys and lovely blankets for the children to have on their beds, that they could take things off and put them back on as a plaything. So we're trying to do our best at Queen Anne's to support the children. Thank you very much for being there.
Thank you so much for your support. It's incredible. We wouldn't be here without you. So thank you.
Thank you for that comment. Any other comments or questions? Okay, well, thank you very much. As I say, very, very interesting and great work again, and good luck with the fundraising.
Thank you very much. Keep an eye out for the elephants, and see you soon. Thank you.
And just a reminder that there is an open invitation to local charities and voluntary groups, to come and present at the forum. We have a sort of a slot that Thames Hospice have taken this time, we're always very interested to hear from other voluntary groups to come and talk. Thank you. So moving on to item 6, bus services in Windsor. We've got an update on the bus services from our Transport Policy Manager, Doug Tremellan. If I can hand over to Doug for the presentation.
Thank you very much. Everyone hear that on the microphone? Yes, good. Good evening, everybody. So I'm Doug Tremellan. I'm the Transport Policy Manager for the borough, and one of the things that my team looks after are the bus services. Bit of background to bus services. So they're first and foremost planned and delivered on a commercial basis by bus companies. That's part of the deregulated regime that came in 1985. But with that, the council was given powers to offer contracts to bus companies to provide services where there are gaps in that commercial network. And the contracts that the council had in place with bus operators needed renewing this year in April 2025. So since the last time that those were tendered, there's been a very high inflation, which we've all known and have felt, not least from increased fuel and labour costs in terms of running the bus services. And so from a very early point, it was clear that a like-for-like replacement of existing services was going to far exceed the council's available budget. And so we've had to think very carefully about how we would tender these services. On top of that, looking at the network that we had, it wasn't necessarily working for residents as it was. So the borough in the recent years has seen the lowest bus ridership per head in the whole country, with far fewer bus journeys made per person than in surrounding towns and villages in our neighbouring authorities. And that fall in ridership has been really pronounced over the last 10 to 15 years or so, during which about 1 million fewer journeys per year were being made by bus services. And that was even before the pandemic. So with a climate emergency, cost of living pressures, we need to look at how the network served both existing bus users and people who were not using the buses as they were. So, asking the question, what was it about the network we had that was no longer meeting those needs? Public consultation was held in 2023. We received just shy of 800 responses. So there was, people were able to helpfully point out existing connections that people told us were vital to maintain, and missing connections that were preventing people from making the journeys they needed and wanted to by bus. So bus services were retendered, taking on board those comments from public consultation, and the new contract started in April. Alongside those changes to the tendered services that came in April, there have been additional complementary enhancements to the wider commercial network as well that have been put forward by bus companies. All changes taken together, the new network introduces new direct buses between Windsor and Wraysbury, Eton and Taplow, Windsor, Dedworth and Wexham Park Hospital, and Dedworth and Heatherwood Hospital, all of which were requested during the consultation and indeed in countless correspondence prior to the tenders as well, which you've taken into account. The new network also sees more buses per hour between Windsor and Dedworth, so there's now 3 or more buses per hour. To Staines, now 3 buses per hour, and also Maidenhead, which has increased to 2 buses per hour. Reflecting Windsor's strong leisure and hospitality offer and visitor economy, additional late evening, weekend and bank holiday services have also been introduced on some routes. And new low emission vehicles are being rolled out across many routes as part of these changes. You'll see them appear throughout the year. Increasingly, these buses will have modern features such as audiovisual next stop announcements. Fares for most single journeys continue to be capped at £3. Anyone paying by contactless bank card will be able to use tap on, tap off payments that automatically calculate the best value fare for the journeys you make across the day. So where you have a choice of bus operators now for the journeys you make, if you use that method, you can be reassured you'll always pay the best value fare for the journeys you make without committing to a return ticket in the morning. We've kind of got on screen a map of the routes as they are now, which we can talk about in further detail during questions. I'd like to mention as well as the fixed bus routes, there is the Go to Gate service, which is not a tendered service, that continues to provide an innovative, popular and fast link between Dedworth and Heathrow airports, flexibly picking up from most streets in Dedworth like a taxi. We also have the People to Places bookable door-to-door service throughout the borough for residents who are unable to use the bus service, which the council is continuing to subsidise. The new contracts have secured these tendered services for at least 5 years, and the commercial services, although they continue to sit outside this, so those are subject to business decisions by the bus companies. The extension of Route 2 to Wexham Park Hospital and the evening services on Route 37 are both trials. We will need to see strong turnout for these services if they are to continue in the long term. We anticipate the new services will prove useful to many residents because these are things that people have asked for a long time. And we'd ask everyone to tell their friends and neighbours about these new services to help secure their future. So together with the bus companies, we're looking carefully at how the new services are used and also whether buses can reliably run to the new timetables. Our objective remains to deliver a network that means more people can use buses for more of the journeys they make. Where routes have changed, new bus stops are being introduced in locations where there is currently not a stop. New vehicles will continue to appear on routes throughout the year, and timetable booklets are available and continue to be in high demand, but we're working with the bus companies to make sure these are being restocked on board buses and in libraries, and of course all information is available online. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you very much, Doug, for that overview. I think there are certainly a lot of improvements as a result of the new services. We're very well aware there are also some issues that have arisen, and we're very much in the process of working through those. I was contacted by Councillor Lynn Jones actually this afternoon with a request to point out from her. And I want to acknowledge and thank her for raising concerns in particular from the residents of Queen Anne's Gate who are in her ward, and I imagine are here this evening. And I know she's had many conversations with officers over the months since the launch with people such as Doug, and it's good that we've been able to respond, to issues raised by ward councillors. And I know there are many, and I'm sure we've got a lot of questions. So let me throw it open firstly to the panel members. So yes, Councillor Costa.
Mr. Tremellin, I want to say thank you to you and the bus companies for the areas of improvement, the strategic areas of improvement. They are valuable, there's no doubt. But we haven't got to the stage where there are certain, and we've had this discussion, but just for the public gallery, that we've had this discussion where there are key areas where people with protected characteristics have been failed, if you like. So there's key areas you probably still need to iron out and work on. And these are mainly elderly people, and the buses are everything to them. And while we may talk about usage, it's sort of another conversation to fit in with an overall transport strategy, environmental strategy. We do need to sort of address some of the key areas. I think some of the issues that residents have asked me to present, and I'm sure they'll present as well, are going to be the isolation because of the changes for people at Queen Anne's Gate in the Great Park, which we've talked about, also at the Willows, and on Wolf Lane, another key area in the Pinner Cottages. So it's great that we're improving, but somehow we've got to flex again. You talked about the temporary looking at the bus service to the hospital. So maybe there's another way of flexing the service provision so that we can just capture these people who at the moment are being, from their perspective, discriminated and against. So I just want to present those to you. And we've had that discussion. So we said a stop on Foster Avenue, a stop beside the Willows, extending the service and the routing in terms of the number 1 into the Great Park. And of course, the discussion about whether or not it's actually appropriate to have a bus service running on a narrow road, which is Longmead, when we've got the existing road which was created for the service, which was Aston Mead. So I just want to raise and bring those issues to you. And the question is, how can we flex this service so that we can capture and provide a service for people who are currently isolated because of the changes?
Thank you very much for your question. There's quite a lot of specifics in there, which I'll try and remember and unpack afterwards, but I'll respond to the general question you entered with first, because I think that's helpful. So then there is a distinction between the services the council tenders, where we have a contract in place with the bus company. Now, that contract has obviously been agreed, and we've agreed a fixed price for that, but there is the potential for negotiation on those contracts, because we've got that very clear partnership arrangement with the bus operators. So within Windsor, the services that are tendered are the number 1, the number 10, 10A, the number 15, and the number 37. So those are where we have contracts. The other services are run on a primarily commercial basis. So the bus companies provide and operate that network. So while we obviously have good relationships with the bus operators, and we can definitely present feedback to the bus operators, the council can't direct the bus operators to make those changes. What I would say is, of course, if there is strong demand from a particular location for a bus service, and that bus service generally would be used, that could be of interest to the bus company in terms of trialing an additional service for that location. I think you mentioned some specific locations as well, didn't you? So
I'm not too worried about you mentioning going with the specific locations, although some of the residents may ask them. But I think my point is, we must get together and find a way of creating a service that captures these people who are currently being discriminated against. So that was my challenge to you and the whole of the team and the council, to say, come on, let's get together, let's talk again and find a way of doing this, making this even better.
So of course, delighted to meet with you further, and I think we have already discussed about doing that, so we'll get that fixed in, councillor. I think we do need to be a little bit conscious that there isn't a single street in the borough where there aren't people living who are disabled or older, or for other reasons have strong need to use the bus, including people who just need to get to work, and otherwise they don't have a way of getting there. So there's all sorts of reasons people need a bus from every single street, and it isn't possible, sadly, for a bus to go down every street. So I think that the network that we've got is about as much coverage as we were able to get with the funding that the council had available to it. And so there is going to be that constraint in terms of how we flex the network, as you say, and how much flex there really is in the network within the existing funding envelope.
Thank you. So we will get together and we will talk, and we will have more to reflect back to residents. And you've seen the petitions, you've seen the many letters as well.
Yes, absolutely. And we are, we're listening to all the feedback that's coming into us. Absolutely.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Carpenter.
Yeah, thank you very much for your presentation. Certainly in our ward, and so I'm Councillor Price and myself, represent Clewer and Dedworth East. So generally, I think most of our residents are actually really happy with the changes. They can now get a bus to their doctor's surgery on Vale Road. They can get a bus to Heatherwood Hospital and Wexham Park. So that's a vast improvement. Quite a lot of the feedback I've got is on the number 2 service, but I believe that's not a tendered service. So how do I get that feedback? Do I send it directly to the bus company, or is it something that I can share with you, or you know, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely fine. And so you're very welcome to share it directly with the bus company, but equally can, make introductions for you and do that with the councillor.
Okay, thanks. I mean, I'll just sort of summarise a couple of things, a couple of the highlights. One of them seems to be, and I don't know if this is just the number 2 or whether it affects other buses in the area, but when we have diversions for changing of the guard and things like that, it seems that the information on the timetable boards aren't correct. So that causes a lot of issues for people. A lot of nodding in the gallery there. So I think that's something that definitely needs to be addressed. Also, it's great that we've got a trial to Exon Park. That's fabulous. But there's no number 2 service on a Sunday, and people do have hospital appointments on Sundays. Including A&E and people who are discharged on a Sunday, etc. Also, a really good piece of feedback is that someone said it would be good if we could add a stop to the cancer/maternity side of Wexham Park Hospital, because it's a really long walk for elderly, disabled, pregnant, and obviously people who have cancer, to get through that from the existing bus stop. So I don't know if that's something that the bus company would look at. And yeah, there's a few other things. And generally, apparently the seats are really too high and uncomfortable. And slope forward. I don't know if that's something anyone else has experienced. So it's very uncomfortable for those with disabilities and elderly people. So, but at least we have a bus service that does go that way. So, but there's a few other sort of more detailed ones, but they're the sort of the main things, the sort of Sundays and the signage and diversions, and I've had a few reports where the buses have gone the wrong way round and things like that as well, but I think I've reported those 2 directly, so they've been resolved. So yeah, I think they're the main points. Anyway, I'll send you the more detailed questions, but I say on the whole in our ward, I think we're generally happy. There's a couple of ladies, like Councillor Da Costa said, one lady has been catching the bus for 60 years and now her bus stop has disappeared and she has to walk a bit further to get the bus. And, she's elderly and that's not great. But like you said, it's very difficult to cater for every single road and every single person. I think generally, the bus service has improved in our area. So that's good. So thank you very much.
Thank you. So if there are detailed points, I'll try and remember most of them, but we can pick those up later. I would just say of the couple that I do remember from what you just said, in terms of the information on changing the guard, that is a known bugbear of mine, and we are trying to fix that this year. There are new vehicles coming, as I mentioned, so hopefully they will come with additional comfort for passengers. So I hope we'll continue to see improvements in those areas.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Councillor Rice.
Thank you. Yes, just reinforcing what Councillor Carpenter said, is the result that we got from the submission we put in and the needs of our residents. I was really pleased knowing that it was less money, so thank you for that. On the money side, I'd just like to understand, we want more people to use the buses. Some people, like myself, get a pass, so I don't actually have to pay, but I can use the bus. Who actually pays the buses for my free pass? Where does that come from?
Thank you for your question. And so the answer is that when you present your pass, you'll be tapped onto the bus, or the bus driver makes a note, the council pays your fare each time. So we get a bill each month.
So the irony of this is that the right thing to do is to obviously have more people using the buses, but actually that's going to cost the borough more money.
That's true. That's a national policy decision, isn't it? I don't think anybody would suggest it would be a good idea to take those passes away. They're really, I know that's not what you were suggesting, and they're really, really needed and valued. It is important to remember that that there is a cost to the council for doing that. But yeah, that's what we do.
Thank you. I would also maybe add to that point. That's kind of part of the point of having a council, is that it does allow the state to provide for where there is that need. So that is obviously a key thing. Okay, thank you. I'd like to open it up to the floor. Yes, sir. If you'd like, just come forward and press the button, and then when the microphone is ready, please do comment.
Hi, good evening. I'm a resident of Longmead and a very unhappy one.
Sorry, sir, if you could just say your name as well.
Sorry, my name's Tim Powell. We've seemed to have had the buses rerouted down Longmead, which came as a surprise. And there's been a lot of issues trying to get to the bottom of who actually decided that was the case. Early on, when it first happened, I saw a post from Councillor Price, who said she felt it was something to do with the residents of Galleys Road. I don't know if that's true or not. We've spoken to the bus company. They said it's the council. We've spoken to the council. Our local councillor here, Costa, who's been very good trying to get to the bottom of this. We haven't really got to the bottom of it yet. Apparently, the bus company is who have decided this. So under a freedom of information request, I've asked for the risk assessments, impact statements, and consultations that were held. So I'm waiting. I've got to hear by the middle of August for this. I've had an email with yourself, Doug, and we're going to get together. Hopefully, I haven't heard back from you yet with the with a member of the transport committee. Because Longmead is one of the roads in Dedworth that has no traffic calming. So the buses do go down at a fair old pelt down there. So I want to know firstly how much the council put aside to put traffic calming in if we can't have the buses moved. Secondly, we've got concrete bus signs in Ashton Mead where they don't run anymore, but apparently they're going to put some up in Longmead, which is going to be a cost implication to RBWM, I'm presuming, when you've already got them in another road. And secondly, I've got a photograph here which I can show you, which was Monday. I can pass it down, where the bus actually got stuck between the cars because there was no way it could get down there because cars were parked legally. So what I'm asking is, how are we going to get the bus company to reconsider the road? The Ashton Mead is one road down. It was perfectly fine there. The roads are wider. There's less parking on the road during the day. It's not busy. At Longmead has Homer at one end of it. Children use it going down to Homer to the west, and Dedworth to the east. There's a lot of children up and down there. It's wrong. And we really need, before they start, the council spend money sticking concrete bus stops up in Longmead and spending money. We really need to look at this again. So I'm hoping yourself and one of the traffic enforcement people or whatever can come down and have a look so we can actually get to the bottom of this, because it's been really cloudy. Everyone's saying, well, I don't know, it's someone else. And someone's saying, I don't know, it's someone else. And at the end of the day, I think from your answer in your last email, we're getting there. But I don't see how a commercial viable company, which I believe the bus company is what you pointed out, can turn up in a borough, override the councillors where they want to put bus stops, and just suddenly decide where they're going to put them. It just seems strange that the council really needs to get hold of this, get a grip of this. I find at the moment, unless we take action, it's going to slide and it will just be, it's too late now. So I wonder if you've got the answer, especially when it comes to the financing as well. Thank you.
Right, thank you for your question and comments. Doug.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for your question. Apologies if we haven't arranged the date with you yet. I'll come back to you on that. We'll absolutely come and visit Longmead with one of our road safety officers, and you can show us yourself the issues there. So in a deregulated bus environment, which the UK has, anybody with a bus license can anybody can apply for a license to run a bus company. You apply to the traffic commissioner. As long as you're of good repute, you're then free to register a route on any public road you like, and apply for business. So that's when we're talking about a non-tender or a commercial service. That's what we're talking about. The number two is a non-tendered commercial service. The route the bus company chose to switch from Aston Mead to Longmead in order to continue to serve some stops on Smith's Lane that it wanted to continue to serve. So this is quite ordinary, if you like. It's beyond my kind of jurisdiction to say whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but that is the reality of how bus services are planned and managed in the UK. Yes, the council is responsible for putting in bus stop infrastructure to support bus companies on the routes that they put in. We'll be using some grant funding to do that. We are passing your feedback on to the bus company, and I'm sure they'll be, they will take it on board, but it is ultimately their decision as to where they want to run that route. I am happy to come and talk to you about the traffic calming.
So can I come back on one more thing I've got to mention? We did a petition in Longmead. 2/3 of residents are absolutely don't want it. I've shared the petition with Councillor De Costa, and we're more than happy to share it with you. So your residents, that are your constituents, are saying no. So I think it's something you really need to get hold of and have a look at, because if there's no, it doesn't matter either way, fair enough, but it does. People are saying, there's one particular lady, I won't mention her name, she's registered as blind, she's trying to go up to the front door. There's an elderly gentleman, we're talking to people on the doorstep, an elderly gentleman who moved down from Wolf Lane, that area. He said, because of the buses, he said, I've got them outside the front door now. So I'm really implore you to look at this again, speak to them, not just say, we'll have a little chat with the bus company, get them down as well, let's get them talking to us. Because someone's actually decided, and I hope it wasn't from a map, they walked the roads to look. And one of the bus stops actually is on a corner, which I'm sure is in contravention of where it should be, because the car's coming out and turning. So again, with your traffic officer, come down and have a look. But we really do need to get to the bottom of this before we start putting up concrete bus stops. And then, oh, it's too late now. The bus stops of concrete was already in Aston Mead. That's where it was. That's all I've got to say. So hopefully we get to meet soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments then?
Yeah, just happy to come and meet you soon. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
I think also, thank you for raising the point about the petition. I think if there's a significant number of residents, that is something that I would encourage the bus company, to take notice of. I don't know the reasons, for their decision, but clearly if there's a large number, yeah, it would be interesting to understand their decisions. Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments from the comments or questions from the public gallery?
Yes, I would like to.
Yes, so yeah, do just come forward and take a seat and press the button. And if you could introduce yourself with your name.
I'm Sue Morris, and I live on the Willows, Riverside Park, and we have no buses whatsoever down there. And a lot of elderly people live on that side, and they can no longer walk up as far as Testwood Road to pick a bus up to go anywhere, or even to the Tesco's. They can't, get a way out at all. We're restricted completely now. So we do need some sort of service down by Riddlesway roundabout.
Okay, thank you. Tim, any comments on that? Is that a service that's been taken away?
Doug? Yes.
Yes.
The W1 was.
Sorry, Doug. Yes.
Yes. So the W1 did used to stop by Ruddlesway roundabout, and the number 2, which is the commercial service we've just been talking about, stops on the corner of Ruddlesway and Testwood Road, which you just described. The difficulty we had when we were re-tendering these services is that because the 2 gets so close, the only bus stop that isn't being covered in that area is the one by Ruddlesbury roundabout. I did mention to the bus company at the time that that stop would not get any service anymore, and we did feel there probably would be people who'd like to use the service. I'll mention that to them again, because really the only service that we could get up to Ruddlesway would be the number 2, but as I said, that's not attended service, so we can't direct the bus company to do that.
The number 16 bus goes straight down Doverth Road, turns into Oakley Green, and the first stop is a cemetery. So it could actually go back down Ruddlesway, round the roundabout, and it still meet the cemetery step there.
Yeah, I think that's a very sensible suggestion. Again, the 16 is not attended service, so that's a suggestion we can put to the bus company.
Yeah.
Perhaps work with you to kind of make the case for how many people would want the service to go there, because that sort of shows them there would be the demand, and we can make that case to them.
Because you are stating that you're covering hospitals and doctors and things, but we've no way of getting to the hospitals or doctors because we haven't got a bus service. So that does need looking at seriously.
Okay, no, thank you very much for that comment. I think the more we can kind of take comments and especially like an estimate of the number of residents who would be interested in a service, I think that's really useful. And clearly, the bigger the number, the more powerful the argument. that we can make to bus companies, to change. And what we are seeing is that they are, they are open to some flexibility with feedback. We've got this change to the 1A that's coming in a month or two. So yeah, I would very much encourage if you've got a sort of anything beyond a small number, like a medium or large number of residents, to pass all those comments through, and we can. Well, sorry, I hope I'm not speaking on your behalf. We can negotiate, or at least we can pass that on, and talk to the bus companies and press them, as strongly as appropriate. Thank you, Councillor Price.
Yes, I just want to point out that people who think the bus service is great won't say anything and won't have a petition to say we think it's great. Obviously, when people are being disadvantaged, they will. If the bus company listens to the people who've been disadvantaged and change it, the people who think it's perfectly okay don't know it's going to be changed and haven't had an opportunity to say, hang on a sec, we'll now be disadvantaged if you change it. So we have to balance this. We can't just only listen and think about people who've signed a petition. We have to then, I would suggest, if they are going to consider changing, then we need to consult, particularly in our ward, the disadvantage there will be to our residents of changing that particular route. So we have to have this balance. So I would just urge that balance, please.
Yeah, thank you, Helen. No, that's a very good point. I guess on that, I would say that hopefully the bus companies would know who is currently using their service, and therefore, who is getting on at which stops. So hopefully there would be some data there. But certainly, all changes need to be carefully considered, the positives and the negatives. I don't know if you want to add anything in terms of the process that officers go through.
I don't think I've got something on the process. No, I think just to reiterate that, with the budgets we've got, and budgets include, the amount of time that the vehicles are out on the road running the routes as well. It's a sort of a zero-sum game. So for every new thing that goes in, there's going to be a loss somewhere else. That is really important to understand.
Yeah, I was talking about the commercial routes because that was the petition. Yeah.
And to be clear, the same problem will occur for the commercial routes as well. So in order to divert a route, which takes an extra 2 minutes to do one particular thing, 2 minutes will have to come off the route somewhere else. That's always going to be the pain point, just what you described, Councillor.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Costa.
Yeah, Councillor Price, the routes we talked about, these are tiny little changes. If you think about Longmead and Astonmead, that both onto Smith's Lane, if you think about there are no pickups along the Oakley Fifield Road up to the cemetery. So going down Nuddles Way, there's no real change. But you're then allowing people in the Willows to actually pick up on the service. So what these residents are talking about are little changes which shouldn't really have an impact substantially at all. But if we can talk about this, the 2, the 16 and number 1, and just reassure these residents, and there are hundreds in the Willows, on Wolf Lane, on Astonmead and Longmead, and in the Great Park as well. I think it would reassure them to say, look, we will talk about this, we will try our best to find a solution, and we will be involved in helping you out there.
Okay, thank you. Any other? Sorry, did you want to come in on that? Any other comments? Yes, from the floor.
I'm Katie. I've already had a meeting with Doug, but I'd just like to point out that a lot of my neighbours have come tonight because they want to hear whether you're going to make some changes. We've all been stuck without a bus on a Saturday, bank holidays, 4 days with no bus. The timetable is so dire. Most people haven't even used it yet, and they have to get taxis. It's costing us a hell of a lot of money.
And sorry, could you just confirm the area you're talking about?
Queensgate Cottage. We've been completely forgotten about on Saturdays, and the first bus into town's 10:30, so we need a bus sooner than 10:30, and 3 hours wait before you come home, 6 hours wait in the afternoon. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. No, thank you.
We're expected to walk all the way down from the roundabout, and as you can see, most of my neighbours have walking sticks, can't carry shopping, can't walk that far. It's not fair.
Yeah, thank you. And I know the strength of attendance. That's clear. We've flagged a change that is coming in from the end of August. Doug, I don't know if you're able to kind of. I'm not sure how the changes that we're bringing in match up with exactly the points you've referred to. It does say it will be calling again at Queen Anne's Gate on Saturdays. What I don't know is the timing.
Thank you. Yes, so thanks very much for you passing on the feedback from yourself and your neighbours to us on the new service. We're having listening and talking to the bus company about the points that you've raised. I know that one of the main things that you've raised has been the Saturday service. So that is the thing that is changing on the 31st of August. The bus will stop again at the Queen Anne's Gate stop on Saturdays and bank holidays. So that service will be returned. We are looking at options for how we can introduce the service before 10:30 on from Queen Anne's Gate. That's very difficult in that it requires a second vehicle, which introduces a lot of additional cost. But we are having constructive discussions with the bus companies about options for that. I just don't have that hasn't been worked all the way through just yet.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the question. Yes.
I'm Lorraine Holloway. I actually come in from Sunning Hill, but many residents on the route, I'm pretty much the whole route, into Windsor, do not use the bus anymore because they find that catching it outside the parish church is very difficult. It used to come to the bottom of Pescott Street. Many of those residents are carrying shopping with walkers. They can manage to pop into M&S or any shops at the bottom of the street and get down to the bottom, but they find walking up with the number of tourists on the cobblestones impossible, so they no longer come. I think that's a very small tweak. The other thing with that as well is that a great many buses use that parish church bus stop. And if you're not quick on your feet, you can miss the bus because they're having to park sometimes 4 in a row. And somebody elderly does not have the time to spot the bus. Often it's just a fleeting glimpse of the side of the bus. And I feel like that is possibly a very small tweak. I don't know, but would make life easier. And I'm able-bodied, but the benches up there are not sufficient for the number of people. And particularly the school bus is often delayed because it has to stop many times and they cannot sit. And I waited up there the other day for 25 minutes beyond the time the bus was meant to come in full blazing sun with no shade. If it's raining, you get soaked. But down at the bottom of Pescott Street, there is shade and there is shelter. I grant you not a huge amount, but more for the number of people that are there. And if you're ever standing on the pavement when a tourist party come through, you can miss your bus trying to get through the people, and I feel like maybe that's not a costly tweak, but would really help a lot of people.
Okay, thank you. That was a very good point. Really comments.
Yeah, thanks for your question, and that has been put to us as well in the meeting the other week. So that's another thing we're talking to the bus company about. I would imagine, like you do, that the move to Charles Street is relatively straightforward, but I do need to get them to tell me that they can do that before I commit to doing it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, well spoken. Any other comments from the public gallery? We're good. Great. Well, thank you. Oh, yeah, sorry. Do come.
Hello, Daphne Martin from the Willows. We've got 200 homes where we are. I'm not saying 200 people will get the bus, but it's as you come out of the Willows and you cross the road, there's a dangerous road as it is. So people have just made it. And also down that side road, they've just built another 400 homes down that road. So it's getting very dangerous. But also, the buses, we really need a bus. So how do we go about doing a petition?
Can you talk to me?
Yeah, of course, yeah, of course. How do we do that? I'll come to you.
Yeah, come to me also. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'll come to talk to you afterwards then.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you for raising that. So
Okay.
Wisdom is one of your ward
Okay.
councillors, so he is exactly the right person to collate the evidence and pass it on to
Okay.
officers.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, madam.
Yes, hello. My name is Josie Norman. Oh, there we go. My name's Josie Norman, and I am one of the residents of Queensgate cottages and flats. And I would just like to point out that our original bus service was perfect for everybody. And we had no problems whatsoever. Now we have all of these problems, and if we want to go shopping, if we have an appointment in Windsor or wherever, it's costing me a fortune in taxi fares. Not just me, but the majority of our residents at Queensgate. The majority of the people who live at Queensgate are retired and are now in their 80s. I myself am in my 80s, and we all have problems with for different reasons, which obviously I'm not going to go into, but we all have problems of walking or whatever. This new service, it will take us into Windsor at 10:30. But by the time we get there, the next bus coming back is only 10 minutes after we get there. So that is pointless. We then have to wait 3 hours for the next bus. And that bus sometimes doesn't come back to Queensgate. It hurtles off and goes to Old Windsor. So we're left at the bottom of Osborne Road, having to walk. You've got a stick, you've got shopping, you've got, and it's just hopeless. We can't walk that far, the majority of people there. And it just become a really awful thing for everyone. The majority can no longer use the bus service, and it's costing everyone money to pay for taxis. And that's, if you go there and back by taxi, that's £14. And we're all pensioners, we're all, as I say, and that's a lot of money on top of your shopping bill that we shouldn't have to be paying. We had a perfectly excellent bus service, and now we don't have it. Well, the majority of people can't use it. They stopped our Saturday bus service, so we don't have that, but I recognise that you've said that will hopefully come back. But as I say, everybody, there's a lot of people come from Queensgate today because we're all so upset about what's happening and all this cost involved as well for everybody. We shouldn't have to be paying out that amount of money. And if you go into Windsor and say you drop a prescription off, you're not going to get it that day. So a couple of days later, you have to go back in. We're now talking about £28. That's, and that happens regularly to people. So I just wanted to make that point. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, no, thank you, and point very well made. That's apparent, I think, and it's interesting in terms of what you were saying. I'm reflecting that one of the core objectives of the borough in terms of kind of our social care is to make sure people can live independent lives for as long as possible, and clearly, that, as you say, there are many elderly residents there. So we, by the provision of the right bus service, if we can, help support you living in your homes, for as long as possible, that is absolutely the right thing to do. So I think there's an extra bit of context there as well as the day to day. There's that kind of, thinking as through to the future as well. Sorry, just 1 second. Just yes, Councillor De Costa.
Chair, you've raised a fantastic point when we look at equalities and when we look at this as a silo. You do a great job, but I'm just wondering whether we can expand the view of this, so we bring in other areas of the council who might have funding to support the changes, public health. I don't know. That's coming off the top of my head. So anything that looks at the protected characteristics of these individuals. So it's just can we think about not silo working and finding a way of making this work for our residents?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, sorry, if I can just come to the public gallery and then Councillor Teasey. Yes, would you like to come forward? Sorry, just for the live feed, and also for everybody in the room, do please come forward if you're able. Thank you.
Sorry, I just want to say that we will have bus passes that are obsolete now, really. And instead of being able to go on the bus free, which not because we're tight or anything, but it's a huge amount to pay for a taxi. And as my colleague said, as my friend said, backwards and forwards.
Yes.
I mean, some of us need to go up 3 times a week. It's a lot of money.
Yeah. No, thank you. Would you mind just saying your name as well for the minutes?
Maureen Cardy.
Maureen, thank you very much, Maureen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for that comment as well. No, that's very much noted, and I think there's the immediate thing, and then there's the wider picture as well, which we should be thinking about as a council.
The fact that we've got one little lady. We've got one lady who is quite hard, very small lady, and it's very hard for her to get to the end of this road, at Bolton Road, for a bus, and she has to be back within an hour and a half because her husband is very ill and has to have tablets at certain times. So sometimes one bus passed her by the other day when she had her hand out, and then she had to, I think she walked into Windsor then, but it almost kills her to walk into Windsor and back. It's really bad. So there are a lot of people suffering. Also, can I say that they always, everywhere, don't let old people be alone, keep them in the community. We've all been shut out of the community because we've only got our own community, which is lovely, very nice community. But if I want to go to my daughter's, for instance, in Maidenhead, it's 4 buses. So, I mean, it takes all day to get anywhere. Yeah. And, there's a lot of things should be looked into for the elderly folk, really, in all walks of life. I know that. And you can't do everything. But I think something more ought to be done to keep people together and to go shopping, because that's a lovely treat for us to go to the shops. Anyway, that's enough.
Thank you. No, very well. Yes, it was a very, very, very good comment. Thank you. Very much noted. Councillor Teasey.
Thank you, and apologies for arriving late. I had another meeting prior to this one. I was just reflecting on what Councillor De Costa was saying about not working in silos and considering different areas of the council, and I'm sure Doug can add to this, but I was aware that there had been some cross-departmental working, and there were some examples where routes had been able to be tweaked with the support of colleagues from children's services, for example, to replace school routes that weren't very good, and there had been some work done to improve things. I'm sure Doug can think of other examples that there has been work across different areas to try and identify different groups' needs.
Yeah, thank you. No, I think this is a very important point, and just also to add, both Amy and myself are cabinet members, so these are things we're very much noting, and we can talk to Councillor Del Campo, who's the lead member for adult services, around this. And I think that there are some quite important points that have come up, which may not have been top of mind so far, but they're obviously very, very important. So yeah, we can take that forward. Thanks, Doug.
Yeah, just to come back on a couple of those points, that we can always do more with more people, so always welcome to have more conversations. But Councillor Teasey is right to mention that we did talk quite extensively with our colleagues in the Children's Services Department about their cost pressures on their school transport services and how we could work together to overall bring those cost pressures down to the council, which secures other services. And indeed, although we did a formal consultation about the bus services prior to that, our public health and NHS teams have been working together, having conversations in the community about the things that would better enable people to live healthy, independent lives in their area. And bus services absolutely came up time and time again, and we did take all of that feedback and consider it when we were putting together these services. I think if I may, just on Route 1, because I know there's a lot of people in the room to whom that matters a very great deal. So, we worked our absolute hardest to get the best possible service that we could using the funding envelope that we had. But just to perhaps give everybody some context as to what that route requires to run, that one service requires 21% of the council's bus budget to carry 3% of the borough's bus passengers. So putting more money into that service would give everybody here and other people a much better service, but we'd have to take service away from somebody else to do that. So it's a really difficult thing for us to do. What we've compromised on is that there is a service from Queen Anne's Gate and indeed from Sunning Hill into Windsor, and there are services back. But I do appreciate that because there are only very few of them, that really dictates people's day, and that's with regret. And hopefully something that over time we can change, but it will require more funding.
All right, thank you, Doug. And I do wonder if there's some alternative funding sources that we might be able to explore. You said you've had conversations already across authorities and NHS, etc. And it probably has been explored, but it might be just worth going around that loop again. Great, thank you. Thank you. Any other comments? Great. Okay. Well, thank you very much for the contributions, and thank you all for attending. I appreciate your presence here and your comments. That's very valuable. So just moving on to the next agenda item, the town manager update. Paul, if I can hand over to you for your presentation.
Thank you, Chair. If I just a couple of seconds whilst Lawrence gets our presentation. It's just a few slides this evening, Chair.
Got open here, just not showing up. There we go.
Go to the next slide for me. So just in terms of health check, this first table is to do with the footfall across the whole of the town centre, and it shows that month on month we're seeing a 10% increase on footfall across the whole area of the town centre. So that's not just Pescud Street, it's the shopping centres, it's the castle, it's the riverside. So all areas showing a 10% increase. Year to date, generally year to date from January to this point or to June was up by 6%. Now some of this data, to say, for the last few months we've had some very good weather, it has to be said, and obviously this ties in also with a lot of the shops doing their mid sort of summer sale. So we've seen quite positive footfall results as a result of that. But in line with the trend that we saw last year, generally we see between May and June an upward trend as we see more visitors come into the town centre. Next slide, please. More specifically, we've got this slide just shows the footfall increase in Pescud Street. I do have a slight question mark because that seems to be extraordinarily high. I have checked it again this afternoon, and the system is saying that this time last year, or now compared to this time last year, that footfall has gone up by 27%, over 27% in Pescud Street, and the year to date slightly lower. It shows an increase of 8%. Again, it's in line with the wider results that we're seeing across the town centre for those early sort of late spring, early summer months, and we would normally expect to see footfall go up anywhere at that point. Next slide, please. This is St Leonard's Road. Unusually, St Leonard's Road is down 1%. which is very unusual. It's pretty much been up for certainly the last 12 months, and we can't explain it. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure what happened. There was no half term. We know we get a lot of footfall movement because of the college primarily, so there's a lot of movement there. But year to date, we're still sort of 9% up generally over the last sort of 6 months. But it may be just a temporary blip, and we may see that recover for the July dates. Next slide, please. This is a slide I included. I think this was included at the last meeting. I've included it again, but I've sort of reduced the number of catchment areas on the right-hand side there, but just showing you the key areas that are showing where people are coming from and the numbers of people. So within the Royal Borough, still one of the largest categories, followed by Slough, and then you can see Bracknell is relatively high as well. I am still playing about with that. A number of people have come to me and said, look, can you, we had a retailers meeting this morning and they were asking about how many people are coming in from London, central London, rather than sort of West London. We've got Kingston and we've got Hillingdon identified there, but they're obviously on the periphery of London. So I will still sort of look to move this around a bit just to see if that gives us more data. And it doesn't help that my table covers London, so we can't see what colour. So I'll have to remember to drag that across on the next report. But very useful for our retailers to see where people are coming from and the numbers. Next slide, please. Retail vacancy rates. We've seen a lot of movement in retail over the last, well, certainly from June and May. So you can see there at the top, we're currently at about 12%. National average has just dropped. It was at the beginning of the year at about 14%, but that number has come down. You'll see from the table that actually since the back end of last year, there are a lot of units that weren't available to let, and that has now sort of certainly at the end of November going into December has increased. So what's that saying is that we've got more units available to let to businesses, whereas before those units weren't even available, which is good, and it means that landlords or tenants are starting to either do their dilapidation works and are wanting to try and put those units on the market. Units that we've recently lost: Chancellors on the High Street, Fua and Peonia in Windsor Royal Station, and then some of the newer ones that have opened or relocated: Tweed and Tartan in the former Booth and Hyde's unit on Pescud Street. Nobody's Child and Newbies, they're both in Windsor Royal Station. Nobody's Child only recently opened, literally a few days ago, and have done really well in their first week of opening. Premier Store is in the lower end of Pescud Street with the Aesthetics in St Leonard's Road. Windsor Gifts, I'm not sure why that's on there. Probably that should drop into the next one, but that's obviously under development on the High Street now. And we're hoping that there is a tenant that is going in there. We just don't know how long it's going to take them to go in. And then some of the tenancies that are about to come into fruition is Sostrine, hopefully I pronounced that right. They are homewares, and Swarovski, the old Swarovski unit is under offer. I'm not able to tell you who at this moment because I don't know. I'm not keeping it a secret. I just honestly don't know. Harrington's is under development now, and will become a Mexican restaurant. And Carluccio's is actually, it's not under offer now. I think there are signs on it now that it will become a Megan's. So again, we don't know the timescale of when that will eventually open. So a lot of movement, mostly positive. So I expect if we don't get any more closures, 12% will come down by the end of summer. So again, looking quite positive in that respect. Next slide, please. Car parking. I think the last couple of times that I've come to this group, we've seen negative car parking now. In April, the car parking did actually go up just under 1%. It has sort of gone back. So Alexandra Car Park, King Edward VII and the Windsor Centre car parks have all shown positive results compared to last year. And again, that ties into their very visitor orientated car parks. And we know that sort of between May and June and July, generally visitor numbers will go up, and that's reflected in the car park. However, the overall usage for May is down 3%. So there is a slight, and you can see by the graph there, it's sort of, you can see the little peak in April, and then it sort of comes back down in line with, slightly under what we saw for 2024. Next slide, please. Next slide. Next slide. Town team, again, some great work here. We as most of you know, we had the state visit a couple of weeks ago, and just the weekend before, we had another town team visit to look at some key areas around the processional route around the state visit. So we had about, I think it was about 10 of us. There's not everybody in the picture there on the right hand side, but most of us were there on the right hand side. So thank you to all those that volunteered for that and did some great work and looked at some key areas. And I think there's a couple of pictures with councillors in. I think Julian TC got managed by a local resident about what he was doing behind the fountain. But he was clearing up leaves, so he was okay. So yeah, really good day. And we're planning to get, I know that there was another one in Clewer as well. Sorry, not Clewer. It was named Edworth. Sorry, yes. That also took place. Unfortunately, I didn't get any pictures, so otherwise I would have put them up. So we've had a couple since the last meeting. So we're planning to book in the rest of the year. And I know that colleagues from Windsor Elite Society have also been in and done a couple of areas around Butchers Acre and the Heritage Garden at the Guildhall. Next slide, please. State visit. Those that don't know, we did have a state visit on the 8th of July. Just some images from the day. It was quite interesting. We haven't had a state visit for nearly 11 years. So lots of new people trying to understand what happens with a state visit. There is a lot that goes into that. I don't know how many people attended it. It takes a long time to organise and a long time to prepare, and the procession lasts all of sort of 12 minutes. But a lot of cross-working. You can see some of the images there from some of the council's services team. So FCC and the clean-up crew did a phenomenal job sanding and clearing the route in quick time, probably quicker than we did back in 2014, to be fair. But we estimated at peak we had about 5,000 people along the whole of the route. So Windsor went across all news channels. Unfortunately, I can't give you a figure in stats. We've been trying to get stats on how many people saw it, not just physically on the day, but through the streaming. We know it was on BBC and all of the other channels, both here and in France. But it was quite considerable. And Windsor looked great. It was a great day. And I think if you came and saw it, you would have absolutely had, you would have seen a spectacle. So thank you to all of our partners that helped make that happen. And to all the officers. This area here becomes event control. So we have a lot of multi-agency partners, the police, the fire, the ambulance service, the military, all go and work together to make sure that this happens quite safely. And there was quite a lot of concern about that, given a number of very high profile events that have happened over the last 6 months with the Liverpool procession and things like the incident at Northolt and various other protest groups targeting. So we had a safe and successful event. So thank you to everybody all round, and certainly the town looked its best for the day. Next slide. That's just a list of the remaining events. Key one I should point out, we have the first Windsor Pride event this weekend on Saturday. It will involve a procession which will go from the Long Walk through the town centre from about 12 o'clock and then finish up at Alexandra Gardens, where there'll be a festival. And then I think there's an after party at the Scotch Bar. If you want tickets, it's sold out. So they are looking at Now, anybody that has a ticket, if you don't get there by I think it's by 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. Yeah, thank you. They will re-release those tickets. So if you've got a ticket and you're not, and you get there too late, you may find that your ticket doesn't let you in. So it's going to be a great event in terms of for its first time and the numbers of people that are going there. It'll be the first time we've had a parade. So they're looking at it being as one of the largest events or first time large pride events in the UK. So looking forward to that. I won't go through the rest of it. We've got Christmas now. Believe it or not, we are planning Christmas. So there's a lot of paperwork that we're starting to generate for road closures and various other things, but we'll let you know as soon as that happens. I think that's it, Chair. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Paul. Very good update, and I'm sure I'm not the only one looking at the state visit going, okay, let's have Windsor looking like that all the time for residents and visitors, and not just a special visitor. So that's certainly on my list to make sure that keeps happening. Councillor Deasy.
Thank you. Just going back to your list of events there, Paul, I just wanted to highlight Rock the Wreck, which is the music festival in Clure and Dedworth, run by volunteers. And everything goes back into the community. That's on the 24th of August. But also the Clure and Dedworth Christmas Fair. The date's still wrong on your list. It's on Sunday the 23rd. We wouldn't dream of trying to compete with the Maidenhead Christmas lights switch on, because nobody would come. So we're on the Sunday. We're always on the Sunday.
My apologies. I thought I changed that, so I obviously dug out an older list. So I will get that changed.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Carpenter.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Paul. That's a really good update. And yeah, tickets for Windsor Pride, there will be some available on the gate as well. So if you haven't got a ticket, they will still be available on the gate. Limited number. So no, and you don't need a ticket to join the march. So thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions for Paul? Yes, Councillor Costa.
Yeah, I want to say thank you, and a public thank you to Paul and all the officers for the state visit. People don't understand how much time it takes for officers, not just these officers, but ones behind the scenes, taking it out of their working day, if you like, creating a backlog of effort and work which has to be dealt with later. So, massive applaud to all of the officers here and not here for the work they've done. Thank you. So I had a couple of questions though. We often look upon some of the better towns around the country, and I'm not saying Windsor's not an excellent town. When we looked at its heritage, it didn't have a lot of chains. Starbucks, Costa, McDonald's, whatever you want to call them. It didn't have a stack of chains. It had lots of very unique individual shops and presences which were from this town. So the identity was unique and very, very clear, and the offering was excellent as well. But we've seen a change over the decades in commercialisation and the bigger chains coming in, which sort of detracts from the ethos of Windsor. But what we're also seeing now is a microculture developing, and I just wondered if Paul had any thoughts about some of the microcultures which are developing. For example, our brewing sector is phenomenal. We've got 3 or 4 brewers in the town which are just exceptional. And then you've got other areas like, and I'm going to confess, Havana House and some of the cigars that they do. People come from 50, 20, 100 miles to these events. I'm just wondering whether, in terms of I'm not promoting any of these businesses, but I am pointing out that there are these microcultures of excellence developing. I just wondered whether we had a view as a council to say, oh yeah, look, this is happening. Let's try and encourage a scene around that micro culture. That was the first question. And then the second question was relating to the stats. I mean, when we look at where people are coming from, that doesn't necessarily give us an idea of their spending power. So I just wondered whether, as technology develops, whether we're able to differentiate that into age groups, for example, or other types of demographic, which will give us an idea of how we can advise or let the chambers of commerce know how to tailor their offerings, their advertising and so forth, and their products to increase the spend in Windsor. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, thank you. No, good question. So a couple of things really. In terms of, I might forget the second question because I'm already thinking about how to answer your first one. So in terms of the sort of microcultures and those businesses, so a lot of work, and we work with a number of different partners across the town centre. One of those is the Arch Company, and the Arch Company own the biggest landlord in the country. Actually, they now manage all of Network Rail's commercial activity, and we do spend a lot of time and do talk to them about how we sort of support them and what we can do to help provide, I suppose, a way in which they can re-let a lot of their units, because they've seen change as well within those units. And it's been quite interesting that, you know, certainly anything, I'm going to say north of Goswell Road, because that's actually where the three breweries are. If you count Rabble and Tap Room, and then you've got right at the other end, whilst that doesn't sit within the Archway's purview, they've seen that for a number of years and have said, actually, we do want to try and turn those units into a more retail-based offer, because before then the majority of them were garages, computer centres. So we've embraced that and said, look, you know, if that's what you want to do, there's definitely an offer for that. So we've supported them in that. It is very difficult because, you know, the council doesn't own a lot of property, so how it sort of, it can't dictate, I suppose, in a way, the offers that are coming in, and a lot of the landlords in the borough, with the exception of the two shopping centres, because they've got one landlord and they manage between the two of them sort of 90 to 100 odd units. But in the wider town centre, it's really hard to try and understand what a landlord's thinking, what our agent's thinking. We do talk to them and we say, look, what's coming up and what do you think is the not the latest trend, because that would seem to suggest something short term, but we say, what are the offers? What do we have? Now, interestingly, Windsor Royal Station have recently done a report which we're waiting the results on and to see. And that report, up until about 2018, we used to get an annual report from them, and they used to look at what's on offer now, what's the things that help a vibrant town centre, and look at specific brands that are missing from that town centre and seek to try and attract them. And most notable successes of that, certainly sort of 3 or 4 years ago, you've got Oliver Bonus, Brooks Havana. They all came as a White Company, came as a result of similar reports that said, these are the type of brands that we haven't got and that we need to look at. So we need to do more of that and look at that in more detail. But it's quite hard, because a lot of the big, as you said, you know, where we used to have a lot of independents, we have a lot of multinationals, and so convincing them to come to Windsor may be slightly harder than it used to be sort of 5 or 10 years ago. But it's about identifying those brands and saying, look, you know, potentially you could have a very long-term future here if you got the right unit in the right location. So there is a lot of change. There's a lot of movement. I go to various town centres, not because I'm quite sad like that, to see what's going on. And certainly there is a move. There has been in the last, since COVID, there's been a lot of moves towards a leisure type based unit. So I can go into town centres where they've got golf. You can go and play golf at 18 holes. You can throw an axe. You can so that's a whole industry in itself where they're saying, what can you do that you know, because the online has obviously gone from strength to strength. You can't throw an axe. Well, I suppose you could throw an axe online, but it wouldn't have the same feeling and the same experience as going into a building and throwing an axe. But believe me, I know you're laughing, but there are places like that. You can throw axe, play cricket, play golf. So that you can see across a lot of the big city centres. So whether or not we'll see that in Windsor, don't know. It'll be interesting to see with the Windsor Yards development, because they've talked about having more leisure type units within that development. So it's quite hard, only because we can't force the hand of those individuals. We can only say, right, you know, I write to people all the time saying, you know, would you ever look at getting your putty shack into Windsor? Because I know it's in Watford and it's in St Albans, and that's all we can do. We can't force their hand really. So, but yes, so there are those pockets of sectors that clearly don't have, and would love to have, but it's about having the right offer and the right size of unit, and as a landlord, we don't hold that to be able to control that. Unfortunately, we're in the hands of those landlords across the town. Your second question, I knew I was going to figure out
demographics on the
demographics. Yes, so demographics. Funnily enough, the visitor insights model that we base all of our footfall on does have a section where it identifies the demographic background of individuals coming from those catchments, but we have to pay more money for it. So currently we don't get access to it because we don't pay the next fee up. So that would release that information. But there are certain demographics for each one of those areas that would potentially tell us, what group do they sit in, what age they're in. But we've only got so much money, so we've paid for what we're getting. But it may be something that we look at the next time the license comes around.
Just quick follow up.
Thank you, Paul.
Just quick follow up.
Yeah, very quickly.
Is that something that the Chamber of Commerce could, don't answer it now, could take away and think about supporting that top up fee?
We don't have a Chamber of Commerce in Windsor. I'm not sure if I know that there's one in Maidenhead, but we do have the Windsor and Intown partnership, so it could be something they could look at. But we in our recent discussion with the Visitor Insights team, we are looking at a whole range of other new bits of information that can provide in terms of residential information. So it may be that we, take something out and include that. So whilst it may not cost us more, we may lose something in order to gain that new area of insight and data sets. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Deasy.
Thank you. I just wanted to add a little bit on the visitor insights because I attended a really useful briefing from Robin, who is Paul's counterpart in Maidenhead, and she was. It's a fantastic bit of kit, really. I think we're scratching the surface really with what it can actually offer us. And she was saying that we can actually work with businesses. We set these. We ring fence, we create these areas that we look at the data and we see who's coming into areas, and we look at the whole of Windsor, we look at Pesford Street, we look at the riverside, but we can make those geo fences, as they call them, a lot smaller. So we could look at a department store, or we could look at a park, or any sort of area that we could really interrogate, and we'd be able to see the usage of the people there, and businesses may well want to buy into that and actually buy the service from us to be able to really drill down on who are using their businesses, and that's something I think the economic development team are looking at. And obviously we can pull out whether people are working in Windsor and they're commuting in, or whether they are visiting, whether they live here. It's really sensitive. All of that can be done. And Paul was mentioning about sort of census type data, Ipsos Mori, and all that sort of thing that comes out of it. It's very clever. It's all done by pinging our mobile phones. So it's very interesting. It tracks where, not individually, it can't tell where you as a person are. You're just created into a blob of data, but it's very, really, really interesting. And so that's something we're also looking at, whether we could use it across council departments, because it actually could have a great appeal for other areas of the council. So it was funded by some external funding, and whether actually other departments would like to also buy in and share the cost of using it going forward. So that's definitely in train. And you were mentioning, Wisdom, about whether we want to attract certain businesses, and you mentioned breweries. And that sort of thing is something as well that Visit Windsor and that team are looking at, and whether that, developing, say, the food offering in Maidenhead is a growing area, the breweries in Windsor is a growing area, and whether there are things that can be done to sell that and to promote that so that other similar businesses may be attracted to the town. So that's all part of our sort of visitor work, tourism work, and strategy that we have as well that's fairly new. So it's a really interesting area. It's a developing area. So yeah.
Great, thank you. Councillor Price.
Thank you. I'm conscious that we've talked about the town centre and the tourism, but in Windsor in Dedworth area. We've got shopping clusters in Clew Hill Road, all along Dedworth Road, some big shopping. Are you collecting any data about what's happening there?
Yes, so not recently, but certainly as part of my reports that I feed back to directors, I do include Dedworth. So I do monitor vacancy rates there. So I can include that on this, and I think occasionally I have included, but I don't do it all the time. But you know, I'm probably due to do it, bring it back to this group again. I think the last time I did it was about 4 or 5 months ago.
I think that would be worth including as a matter of routine each time, because this group does cover the whole of Windsor. So it's really important to include that, I think, each time. Thank you.
And
Sorry.
Are you able to do footfall as well? And maybe what Amy was mentioning, can that cover some of the areas in Dedworth?
Yeah, so potentially yes. Currently, as Councillor TC mentioned, we have these geo-fenced areas, and we only get so many. So Windsor's got some, Maidenhead have some, and I think we have one in Ascot as well, and we have one in Eton. So in order to cover Dedworth, we may have to adjust or lose that or buy another package. But at the moment, I think we've used all our clusters up, but I will check, because it wouldn't be hard to geo-fence along Dedworth Road and those key trading points, trading hubs. You've got a hand up behind you.
Thank you. 1 second, sorry, Alison. And yourself.
Yeah. Sorry, just a quick question, and I know quite a lot of residents have been asking this. Is what's happening to the market that I know was removed for various reasons, but is that coming back? Because I think quite a lot of people would like to see, especially like the food market in Prescott Street.
Yep. No, we are looking at different options for the market. Yeah, it ceased. I think it was September last year, and we were looking at a whole range of different options, which we're still reviewing at the moment. Because the issue that we had primarily is that was a food market, and so I think we had at one stage it had something like 22, 23 food outlets, and the pressure on me on the town centre was actually we've already got a lot of food in the town centre, and we're sort of cannibalising those businesses in order to accommodate that market. So it's one of the things that, and it's not that we're saying we don't want to have a food element in a market. It's whether or not a food only market is suitable for the town and matches up with what businesses feel is right to attract more people in, but doesn't do it at the cost of their own business. So yeah, it's been difficult to identify a market that could do that. We still have the vegan market, which is obviously a sector on its own. But yeah, the regular monthly sort of food market, I think we have to look at a different model that maybe still provides a monthly market, but maybe not necessarily a food only one. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, yes. Right.
Hello, my name is Sandra and I'm based in High Street. And I work in retail last 25 years, and I know every retail unit collects the footfall data. That's for them, for their business hard. So as a council, you can definitely implement something, try to collate that information from them. I'm sure they will be quite happy to share because it's in their interest as well. On the second thing, regarding type of shops or retailers that you're attracting, in the last couple of years, I've noticed lots of wellness shops are disappearing, which is really unfortunate because when tourists are coming here, they're walking all day up and down. They'd be very happy to, go in and buy something nice to pamper themselves. And everything I hear from people around that I speak with, that we have more and more restaurants. But what about the local people who live in Windsor? They want to go and have maybe, just things that you use every day. It's a bit overlooked. It's all about restaurants. Thank you.
Thank you. And yes, I mean, many people have raised that, and in particular as Neaton Castle Council, the residents in the castle part of the ward are constantly raising that how the town centre's changed. I mean, to a degree, we are at the mercy of the market in that a lot of the stores are owned by pretty much all the stores are owned by private landlords, so they will put a market rent up, and it's literally whichever retailer is prepared to pay. It's difficult to know what influence the council can have, but it would be nice to have the sort of stores that you mentioned, come. Paul, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, well, I was going to add, it's quite interesting. So COVID was quite an eye-opener in terms of how a town operates and feels. And certainly we found during COVID, and this happened across the country actually, most of the villages, like the size of Eton, St Leonard's Road to a point, that those places that were more independent and had a wider diverse offer bounced back a lot quicker than the sort of big cities with the multinationals in. So it's clearly a message there in terms of what you have to offer has to be diverse and has to be not. They talk about clone towns. They talked about that about 10 years ago, and it's those clone towns I think that really struggled to get through COVID because multinationals there was we had shops that closed not because they were doing badly in Windsor, it's because the company went. And we had a lot of that happening in Windsor and indeed Maidenhead. But independence and different offer and a diverse offer is clearly the way that you sustain a town centre.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, no.
Also in terms of attracting business, you show us your presentation where you said there was like 9 million people in the first half. So literally we have 20 million people walking on one of our streets. I mean, if that wouldn't attract a retailer, being landlord or whoever, surely if you're sending that message across, they'd be coming flying in.
Yeah, thank you. No, a very good point, and that's one of the reasons why we have the data. Any other questions for Paul? Yes, sir.
It's for Paul and also for the council members. One of the changes that's taking place in Windsor is the home food delivery. There are large numbers of motorcyclists, gangs of factors hovering up and down our streets. The thing that would worry me is obviously an irreversible change, because that's what's going on in the world. How well regulated these home delivery systems are, because there are some unfortunate sides to it. Where have all the drivers come from? Are they properly licensed? Are we doing it safely? Is there someone in the council who's actually sort of looking at their responsibilities of how that particular sector is working?
Yeah, thank you. That's a good point. And as you say, this is a growing issue. Paul, any comments on that?
Yeah, no, I was going to say, maybe we can do a double act on this, Mark, because you were here this morning. We hosted a retailers meeting this morning, and that was one of the subjects that came up, was particularly around delivery drivers and how they operate, how they park. It's been an issue for I'm going to say a number of months, probably. It's been a growing issue probably for the best part of a year. And there are certain parts of the town centre that seem to be targeted. I say targeted, but they seem to coalesce in certain areas. So, and which causes a number of problems for us in terms of blocking pavements, or indeed just basically being unsightly, and just it's not a good look and a feel for the town centre. One of the things I promised our retailers group was that I was going to write to the key delivery companies, and we've had this in the past. In fact, we had it during COVID actually, when it wasn't motorcycles, it was cycles. I don't know if you remember, we used to have loads parked up against the benches on against the castle. So I've written to those companies and highlighted the issue that we have in terms of how much control we have of that. They're all many years ago when they first started, they were all effectively company drivers, but they've all moved to this. They're all self-employed, so it's for us to regulate that becomes almost impossible, and we're relying on the companies to say, well, you need to do your due diligence and understand that if you've got a driver representing your company, they need to observe the highway code and not be parking and driving on pavements and driving down Pesca Street and doing U-turns in all sorts of places. Which we've had reported, and that their vehicle is properly taxed and licensed and insured. And again, we've had reports that again, that's not happening. So we've written to those companies and asked them to look at it. Interestingly, what came up as well was that a responsibility on the businesses that they are serving. So that the McDonald's and all the other businesses that are using that service also have a responsibility to say to those drivers, yes, you are delivering on our behalf. Are you properly regulated? Are you doing what you should do? So there isn't an easy answer for this, because number one, in terms of where they're collecting their food, they always like to be close to where they're collecting their food because they've got key targets. And how they manage that. So we've said we've looked at and we're currently talking to the parking team about enforcement arrangements and increasing enforcement arrangements around certain areas and putting in and extending double yellow lines so that the enforcement team can actually do their job, because where they're parking slightly just out of line with what they can do legally to enforce upon them. So we're looking at that. So hopefully that will come forward in the next month or so, once that's approved. And we've got approval from landowners and the conservation team and various other groups to do that. So hopefully that will manage that. The other problem that we have ultimately is displacement, because if we don't want them parking on this pavement or that pavement, where is it they're going to go? Because it's a service that they're providing. So we need to look at a reasonable place for them to park that doesn't cause the issues that we are now seeing, but understand that they are a service and they are trying to do, they're trying to operate and run their business as a self-employed driver. So we need to look at that as well. So we're looking at a couple of options there. But there is no sort of one quick fix for that in terms of, as you say, who monitors that. We're writing to the company saying, what are you doing? And I think there was stuff in the news recently about a recent sting operation where somebody was found out to be an asylum seeker. I don't know if that necessarily falls to the council, but it may be something that TVP and the Home Office need to get involved with. But certainly we're trying to do as much as we can to try and manage and work with them to say what's right for the town centre, what looks right and doesn't cause the distress that we've seen from residents and others that are visiting the town and are coming up against those drivers.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. No, I mean, we're absolutely committed to tackling, the antisocial behaviour and any illegal activity. I would just emphasise, that they are actually, quite a significant sort of like part of the economic process, in the sense that they're serving a lot of residents. A lot of residents are ordering, from local businesses. So it's important that, as I say, we kind of focus in on where the regulation is being broken and where antisocial behaviour is happening, and if possible, we can almost facilitate that service to be provided well and properly, in the correct manner, and that all the regulations are being followed. Okay, thank you for that question. Any other points for Paul? Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Paul. I'm just conscious of time. We're a little bit over, but I just wanted to move to item 8 on the agenda, discussions of issues for future forums. We'll just ask if people can be relatively brief, but we're very interested in things that we would like to cover in future. Yes.
Hello, my name is Teresa Haggart, a resident and part of the Windsor and Eton Society. One of the things that is becoming a real bugbear is the rubbish and the litter. We went today on our way back from a trip out to the Heritage Garden in Church Street, and I've actually never seen it in such an abysmal state. We did take photographs, and I can show you. There was rubbish, there were boxes. We've reported it. I think my husband's done 28 reports of rubbish, even down to I've reported to everyone, or the councillors, on the day of before the state visit.
the absolutely appalling state of Bachelor's Acre. You know, this is an ongoing thing, and the town team going and doing its litter picking is not covering it. It's not the road cleaner chap in Church Street. He does a fantastic job, but he doesn't have the facilities to take the boxes of deliveries. We've reported them with the names on them. Nothing is done. There's another one there today. There's the shops that are leaving their rubbish there. It was appalling this afternoon, and it happens all the time. Now, our Windsor and Eton Society members go on our hands and knees and weed that garden, but it's getting to the stage with the rats and everything else that we're stopping them. They have to come with gloves, arm covers. You know, it's appalling. You know, we can't ask them to be down on their hands and knees if there have been rats around there, because today there were empty eggshells sitting on the side. There was a margarine tub, catering size margarine tub with holes in the side and wasps all around it. What on earth that was, I don't know, but it's becoming a real issue. You know, my husband goes there every Tuesday and Thursday or when he's on duty, and it's every time it's the same. I think today there were 2 pallets there. Yesterday he said there was only 1. You know,
Thank you. So just to be clear, this is commercial waste.
Commercial waste as well as household waste. But it's also the fact that it's happening all the time. You know, it needs to, you know, and that's just one little area. We don't go and check the rest of town, but it is appalling, you know, and people are not respecting our town.
Yeah, no, thank you. Well, I mean, we do have a number of measures in place. There is the environmental enforcement team, and I know they've been very busy in Acre Passage, you know, going through bins, and there have been some fines that have been issued. I think £1,000 fine was issued to a local business for not disposing of their waste properly. Would certainly encourage you to report it, and obviously do anything in the town centre, do share with myself and Julian and Devon, and we can pick that up as well. We can direct the environmental enforcement to those areas. Similarly with littering, we have a contractor who you know, employs people to go around fining people for littering. Obviously they have to be in the right place at the right time. That's not going to be possible to catch everybody. But again, yeah, please do report it. This is very much noted. You know, we can direct people to those areas. And also I think that, you know, there needs to be a bit of a, you know, what prevention measures can we take here? Because I'm not sure there's a huge amount of signage in the town centre, and I know I've raised a lot of comments to the sort of the wasting around signage, and there's been quite a bit of resistance so far. So I think we need to go around this again and look at what preventative measures we can take. You know, a few signs might, you know, maybe not everybody will pay attention, but even if a proportion of people pay attention, that's an improvement.
One of the other things is that there aren't any bins in Bachelor's Acre, or there's only 1 bin in Bachelor's Acre, and not enough. People go there and eat their lunch, and there is nowhere to put the rubbish.
Yeah, and again, this has been raised, and I think there are several bins in the wider area of Bachelor's Acre, but I understand that 2 were taken away from the upper section, and that there are none in that upper section. And I actually photographed some litter there the other day. I previously raised this after we had that town team event. I raised this with the waste team, and I think we need to go around that again. And it's a case of, you know, we need to find the room in the budget to add a litter collection. It obviously costs money, but there are things where you know, we're trying to emerge from the last couple of years of financial, a very, very tight financial management, and just adding in what we can consider to be essential, and, you know, something like that. I think we can make a case for that to be essential.
Can I just say that it doesn't show well? I mean, when we were clearing up before the royal visit, a lady said, do you think Macron will notice that I've been on my hands and knees with a dustpan and brush clearing up just opposite where it was going to be? I said, no, but I'll know I've done it.
Yeah.
And I said, and the people coming and standing there won't look around and go, isn't this filthy?
Yeah.
And that was the whole bit. It wasn't about Macron having it, but it was about the general bit, the pride of the town.
Yeah.
And it was a hard slog to do.
Yeah.
And we just feel that we're battling against a brick wall. When it's been reported, we photograph the labels on the boxes, but nothing appears to happen.
Oh, yeah, I mean, as I say, you're doing the right thing in that sense. And in terms of the Macron visit, like I said, for me personally, I think we should be doing that for anyone who visits the town, and all the residents as well. So that should be the normal state of affairs. It did actually grate with me a little bit that we were having a special cleanup. I happened to be out of the country at the time, so I couldn't join in anyway. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Views do vary. I was actually in Vanstar Park the other day with our town team, green team work, and a couple of residents, passed me and recognised me and said, actually, what, we think we're seeing a difference. We think we're seeing an improvement. The road sweepers are coming around more regularly. Tivoli are doing their collections through Alexandra Gardens. So it's not perfect, but and it's about hitting the hot spots. And as I say, Acre Passage is a current hotspot which we're trying to deal with. Clearly, we need to look at the Castle Hill area, as well, and that's actually been on the radar for some time. And the businesses up there have had some challenges disposing of their waste. The bags that are left have been torn open by animals. So that continues to be a hotspot. Thank you. Yes, Councillor Teasy.
Some months back, we went on a sort of task force visit, didn't we, with various different contractors and people in the town centre. And commercial waste does seem to be a real problem, particularly in some of the smaller streets, where it's quite difficult to get bins and an increasing number of sort of Airbnb type businesses, which really aren't residential waste because they're producing much more waste than a normal household would do. And I just wonder if that's something we should be going back to the place team to be talking about, a strategy for our historic town centre for commercial waste, and whether there could be a more joined up approach. I know in some towns they insist on overnight collections so that in the morning it's lovely and clear, or there's more people use the same contractor so that it's consistency, so that businesses are encouraged to use the same contractor so that everybody's waste is collected at the same time, or there are rules about not putting bags on the pavements, and whether there are mechanisms for us to really tighten up on that so that we have those high standards, and then people who aren't meeting those standards can be enforced.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. And I'm reminded of a visit I had to Bath recently, where I happened to be walking around the town in the early morning and saw a lot of sort of street cleaning being done, and the equipment had their business improvement district logo on it. And I know this is something that we pushed for to be looked at this year, is for some kind of either a tourism business improvement district or something for the town centre, where we can look to the places where there is money, and those people that are taking money and reinvest that in the town, and have some of these services improved. So no, thank you for your points. I'm not sure that's necessarily anything for future forums, but it's certainly noted, and we can potentially. Yes, every time indeed. Well, maybe we can speak to the waste team and I'll set that up. We get the waste team to come in and just talk about the sort of the task force approach and what we're doing. We'll get that lined up, because it's been a recurring problem. So.
There is also the bit that when offices are given permission to become accommodation, there's not always facilities for rubbish, and the comment is put it out on the street. So if you've got an Airbnb that does Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and your delivery thing is Monday, then all the rest of the week those bags are just out on the street.
No, thank you. And I think we've actually started to ask some questions and look into the Airbnb piece, because there are clearly more and more units in the town centre, and actually a lot of the new developments transpire that they are Airbnbs rather than residential, which it kind of creates its own problems. Okay, thank you. Any other points anyone would like to raise? Yes. Would you mind, sorry, coming forward to the speaker, to the microphone? Thank you.
No, it's definitely. Just speak. I don't know if this is the right place, but about speed bumps. We've got the speed bumps outside the Willows, all coming down that road because it's getting so many houses up there now and coming down, and it's so dangerous. And coming out of the Willows, you have to almost get out, and then you have to stop, and the cars just keep coming down. And I just wondered if the speed bumps, if this is the right place to talk about getting some speed bumps down, because it's really, they're really coming down fast.
Yeah, thank you. No, I know your concern. That the right people to be directing that to would be your ward councillors. Wisdom and Carol. There is a process that the highways officers go through to assess the sort of the danger of a road. They can put down data collectors and sort of look at that. So it takes quite a lot to put speed bumps down, but there are other measures they can do in the meantime, signage and that sort of thing, and there may be some design features. But yes, if you raise that with the costers. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Wisdom.
Tourist tax.
Yes. That's included within the business improvement district. So as part of that, that study, and that study is in the council plan to be undertaken this year. Started.
Given that was raised here some time ago, could somebody come back to report to this point? Tell us what's
as an update. Yes. Yeah. That would be good. Yeah. Any other points? Yes, sir.
Ian Haggis, resident of town. Just to add on one more thing from the Macron visit, the car parking machines, which are still in use by some people, particularly visitors, and that they seem to be not performing very well. They were unreadable in Alexandra Gardens for visitors. We had one person who came over asking for some assistance on that day because they had a medical appointment on there, so we had to help them do that with our own version of the Ringo on there because they didn't have the app. They couldn't read the machine and they had a medical appointment to get to. So please can those be looked at again, or are they going to be kept going, or some other thing happen with them, please?
Yes, sorry, so I'm not quite clear. What are you saying is wrong with the machines?
The machines, you're unable to read the displays when there's bright sunlight or they're very hot.
Right.
I've seen more than one of those where it's been like that. Legible first thing in the morning when it's cold. As soon as it warms up, totally illegible on the list.
All right, thank you. I understand. We'll feed that back to the parking team. Yeah.
If I may make a comment as well on the Macron visit the day before, the horse poop was great interest of the Japanese visitors who were photographing it. Just to leave on a positive note.
Thank you. There's they say there's an expression about, which I can't quite remember, about something about luck and brass. Right, thank you. Any other comments? Great. All right, thank you. So just to reference the forward plan, we'll make arrangements for the waste presentation and the update on the bid to follow. There are, I think the aviation forum update is due to come through in the next meeting, which is the 1st of October. Lauren, there was one other item we wanted to bring forward, wasn't there, on the forward plan?
Yes, there's just the flood risk manager, Ben Crampin, is suggested to attend the next forum meeting in regard to discussing and giving feedback on the updates up to the flood risk management strategy. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you. So we'll add that to the next agenda as well. Great.
Can I just check, when they say flood risk, are you talking about surface flooding or river flooding?
I think it's flooding generally from whatever source.
Okay, so it's going to cover both.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Right, thank you.
Okay, very good. If there's no more points, then thank you very much for attending. And the next meeting is the 1st of October. Thank you.